Buenos dias. Hoy es lunes. It's Monday, beginning of a new week, and we're in Exodus. And we're still reading, trying to apply these verses. Some don't apply, and some promises don't apply. Others do. How do we know that? By going to the New Testament and saying, is this repeated? Is this illustrated? So we're going to read a bunch of verses today, okay? Exodus 22, starting in verse 21. Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. See that? Let me just stop there. God is saying here, it's almost like do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but in the Old Testament way. Hey, guys, you were foreigners in Egypt. You remember how they treated you? Not so nice. You were the scum of the earth. Is that the way, you're going to treat now foreigners? You didn't learn from that? You didn't like it. Why would the foreigners among you like it if you act that way? So wake up and don't mistreat them. But God goes further. Do not take advantage of the widow or the fatherless. See, more vulnerable people. Aliens, then widow or the fatherless. If you do, and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry. My anger will be aroused, and I will kill you with the sword. Wait a minute, what Bible is this? My anger will be aroused, and I will kill you with the sword. Your wives will become widows, and your children fatherless. God says here, again, we see it like he has two chosen people. His covenant people are the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But there's vulnerable people among them, foreigners, widows who now have no guy to protect them, and orphans. And notice, even though these are Israelites, human nature is human nature. Read the Old Testament, find out the nasty things they got into. They were stiff-necked from the very beginning. You're not going to find any people really separated to God and living for God in wholesale numbers in the whole Old Testament. So God says, if you mistreat these other people, they're like my second chosen people, vulnerable people. Oh, I love God for that. He's interested in the downtrodden, those excluded. He says, if you take advantage of them and don't pay them their wages, I don't have to pay the guy. He has no father. Father's not going to come after me. I'll use his labor. He's 14 years old. I won't pay him. I'll pay him chicken feed. Here, hey, Benjamin, have some chicken feed. No money, just chicken feed. They go home, God says, and they cry to me because they have no food. I'm coming for you. And just like your sons, the sons of the Egyptians, perish because of their mistreatment for you, don't think it'll work any different for you. Got it? Their sons perished in Egypt when they had no social justice, didn't treat you right. Now your sons will perish. Where there's social injustice, God steps in. And one way or another, in his own inscrutable ways, there's going to be judgment. When you take advantage of people, oh my goodness. Just think of that. 35 million babies have been killed, aborted, since it became legal in America. You talk about people who don't have a voice. You talk about lack of social justice. There is that, and we should try to rectify it with proper laws and legislation and all that. But who speaks for those children? Tell me who's talking for them. They can't talk, right? Isn't God eventually going to deal with America or any other place for doing that? Someone said, no, you got to treat people fairly. Everyone is the same. I got that. I agree with you. Let's do that. But I'm asking you now about the other. And there's a lot of people who are into justice for everyone living, but they have a strange way of looking at the unborn. Just kill them. Now we have it where even if they're born and laying on a table, just abandon them so they die. Nasty business. But if the Bible's true, what we sow, we will also reap. That's in Old and New Testament. If you lend money to any one of my people among you who is needy, do not treat it like a business deal. Charge no interest. If you take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, return it by sunset, because that, God is so amazing. That cloak is the only covering your neighbor has. What else can they sleep in? When they cry out to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Do not hold back offerings from your granary or your vats. So let's go to that. God now is giving legislation for lending of money. If a poor person comes to you and says, I'm really short, remember, in an agricultural society, seasonal rains meant everything. And if there was bad weather, you could be in poverty in a New York second. So now you go to borrow for money. You have no leverage. So God says, all right, if you're going to lend money to one of your own brethren there, a poor person, you don't charge interest. Not only no exorbitant rates, no interest at all, because they're behind the 8 ball. I mean, have a little compassion. And then God later says, after talking about poor people, he said, even these poor people, remember, there has to be a pledge or a down payment to secure the loan, right? To secure the loan. Usually it's a piece of property. Usually it was the cloak. So a guy comes in the morning and says, could I borrow something? So then say, okay, give me your cloak or something of value. That's my security. He says, now nighttime comes. These people are poor. That's the only poncho they have. That's what the cloak was. You give it back to them because at nighttime it gets cold. And if they're shivering because you kept their cloak as the down payment, ooh, I'm doing pow-pow. I'm coming for you. Isn't God so considerate? Isn't he just so wonderful that he would be thinking about down payments on a loan to poor people? Now, don't hold back on your offerings. And remember, agricultural society, it wasn't until the Persian Empire that script and coins were used. So people paid their offerings, their tithes, through mostly the farm produce. God says, make sure you don't hold back on that giving. Don't let unbelief or greed make you hold back on giving what you should to God. Be liberal. Wait a minute, how has God been to you? How has God been good to you? Cheap? Is he God a cheapskate? Or has he been good, liberal? Has he blessed you even when you like going sideways with him and he still took care of you? He's been that way to me. So let's give to God generously. And let's be fair and be very careful how we treat people who have no leverage and don't have a stature in society like someone else. I'm so glad God is the God of everyone, not just the rich and the famous and the well-to-do. Praise his name forever. Amen.